How do you define creativity?
I have no idea what I'm doing, but I know I'm doing it really, really well.
Um, but yeah, bro. Have you listened to any of the podcasts? Are you an avid listener? Are you a fan?
I'm an avid listener, bro. I mean, I've listened to a few of them. I think I listened to to Junior and to Roby. Haven't kept up with. You came out with like who's the artist you came out with?
Oh, check King Tetris.
Check. Yeah, I didn't listen to that one, but
So you kind of know the vibe already.
pretty much, bro.
It's just a convo.
It's just a conversation. I mean, that's my vibe too.
Yeah.
Like when I had my pod, it was just pretty much conversation.
Inside baseball. Well, first we gotta say happy birthday to the producer Junior in the building, working on his birthday. Come on, you didn't think I was gonna mention that on the pod, brother? Come on, even though this is gonna come out weeks later, but happy birthday. We wouldn't be here without you, literally.
Thank you, brother. Thank you. Thank you for the dope flyer and all the art and everything that you do. Appreciate you. Thank you.
Shameless plug.
Quick backstory. I don't know if you know this, but Junior was the way I got involved into Cultura and all this stuff. But what was it, Junior, like 10 years ago? He was my camp counselor at
Wow.
camp, bro.
Well,
This guy was teaching me the basics.
that's a perfect segue. Go ahead.
It's your show. What do you segue to?
I want to hear. I want to hear what you were gonna say.
No, just I'm really proud of Gabriel. It was about like 10 years ago, maybe even more than that, because it was before high school. So
Yeah.
you're that's nuts. It was like 2009, 2010.
Yes.
That
Yeah.
we're
So
looking
more
at?
than 10. Yeah. Like 15. Plus.
Yeah, summer camp coach, Miami Heat basketball camp, and I couldn't be prouder of the human that he turned out to be. Okay, basketball player, incredible human.
I was gonna say, I'm
I'll
like,
take
you
it.
couldn't be prouder of like the basketball skills he
Great
accumulated.
Hooper, even better human though. But
This
yeah.
podcast would be looking a lot different if I made it anywhere in life with basketball.
Like, tell us about your NBA career,
Yeah.
G League. Well, no, I was gonna say that's the perfect segue because I mean, you guys kind of aged yourself there a little bit, but I mean, if you were going to the camp and he was the counselor, obviously you're more of a youngin,
Yeah.
and of our generation. So that's why I'm actually like super excited to have you on the podcast. You're, definitely the youngest guest I've had, not in a negative or positive, just it's a factual statement.
Yeah.
But I'm super interested in like how you started your creative journey and all that, because I feel like you come from this generation of like you already knew that was a possibility almost. Not, I mean, obviously not right from the start, but you saw that as a lane for yourself. Versus like maybe us, it took us a couple years to even though we were kind of doing our own thing, self-employed, but we never thought like we could capitalize or monetize off the things we love to do or know how to do.
Yeah.
So I'm super excited to talk to you, and yeah, I just want to kind of know like where did that creativity kind of begin? Like how did you start in that journey?
Yeah, for sure. I mean, first of all, yeah, thank you so much for having me on. This is pretty cool experience, and got to give Junior his flowers on his birthday and everything that he's done for me. So I appreciate that. Yeah, my journey, especially in the creative space, has been quite interesting because growing up, I always had this kind of idea or kind of belief that you couldn't be a businessman and a creative, right? I always had like successful business person or like broke starving artist type thing. And it wasn't until I started to kind of have some people around me and like mentors and stuff that really kind of shaped that and broke that narrative for myself. I knew I wanted to be in an industry that I could kind of be in control of some sort of creative. That's why I kind of went into like marketing, digital marketing from the beginning. But my roots and my core is really in business. I love the go-getter type of mentality, and it comes from being in sports my entire life. To give you kind of a backstory, I played soccer, football, and I landed in basketball finally after like I don't know how many years playing basketball through middle school, through high school. Got hurt my senior year, basically missed my entire senior season. Had a few opportunities to play college, but ultimately didn't work out because I got hurt. So basically like halfway through my senior year, I kind of gave up on sports because I'm like, I'm not going to play anymore. I got to figure out what I'm going to do. Like that was my future. Like that in my mind, like that was my plan to just get going in my life. once that was kind of shattered, for lack of a better word, to me, like I was like, what am I gonna do? What's next? And it wasn't until I got a job at Home Depot. Actually, before that, it was a funny story. I was actually selling Christmas trees at like these like Christmas tree lots and stuff. And that was probably the first time I'm like, this is hard work. Like this, but I was the happiest person alive because I would come home with like a few $100 in tips every night. And I'm like, dude, this feels good to like make some money. Like, yeah, put in the work. And I always knew that, again, coming from a sports mentality, like you got to put in the work, you got to put in the hours. So at that point, I just needed to figure out like, where do I put my time and my energy? And then, long story short, got a job at Home Depot, went to college, switched up majors a few times, ended up getting a degree in communication. I think I heard you say on the pod that you probably learned more on podcasts than at FIU. Same, bro. I got a degree from FIU, and I think college is for some people, not for everybody. And I think that's slowly but surely changing in our environment and our culture. But I decided to start working for people. I knew from an early age that I'm like, I need to get around people that are doing what I want to do. So I interned at different marketing firms. I learned a ton at like one particular company. I learned a ton at like what not to do and what are some of the things that I wanted to avoid in business. I also come from a family where like my dad's an entrepreneur. He's an electrician, blue collar worker, invested in real estate. Taught me the ins and outs of like, if you work for money, you're going to be working your entire life. So find something that can almost work for you. And that way you can monetize your life. You can monetize your time without having to actually be attached to whatever task you're doing. So I'm like, okay, like at that point, I knew I wanted to start a business at some point. Started my first t-shirt company in high school. I was that kid selling t-shirts out the back of his backpack.
There's always one.
Selling chocolates and candy and stuff. And then yeah, we talked about my podcast that I had started with a buddy of mine. Did that for like 3 years. That was really like a pivotal moment. And I always say like that was probably the best decision, like best business decision I've ever made, because it gave me a chance to get an inside look on like what some of these business owners, what some of these executives, what some of these artists are doing. And gave me an opportunity to really see like what life is like outside of school, outside of sports, what I had known my entire life. And then it wasn't until I actually started working at an agency that I started working with 2 individuals, and I'll shout them out because they had an incredible impact on my life, which was Danny Rodriguez and Leslie Ramos. Junior knows them. Shout out because they were, I don't know if they'll listen to this or not, but they were pivotal in my creative journey, because Danny was the CEO and founder of a creative agency that I was working at, and Leslie was a creative director. So at that point, it was like I was finally seeing like, oh, you can do both. Like you can be a founder, a CEO, an executive, a businessman owning a successful business, and still have that left brain or right brain or whatever it is, and combine the two to be able to do good work and to make an impact. So that's really where like I got my MBA working for that company. I got my film school working for that company.
You learned on the job.
I learned on the job. So it was, and I always tell people like, that's the way you kind of have to learn. Like in school, you learn all the technical things and, all the book stuff, but like, it's not until you're like boots on the ground, like getting your hands dirty, that, you actually have that experience. Selling Christmas trees, I learned sales, like
for sure.
I was dealing with people that were willing to come spend $1,500 on a damn Christmas tree.
Especially in Miami.
Especially in Miami and Coconut Grove, like, like that was something that I'm like, let me capitalize on this and like take advantage of the opportunity. So that was kind of like, in, long story short, my creative journey. And then, it came to a point where like Danny and Leslie, they're both like, look, like they had other plans for where they were going in their life and their business, and they had a nonprofit as well. And they kind of gave me the opportunity and like, honestly, like the courage to like, and the confidence to like do what I was doing already, but on my own. They're like, you have the knowledge, you've learned so much. Why don't you do this for yourself? And then that was basically like 3 years now. And that's when I had started Mad Club. So,
damn, that's crazy that, because usually you don't see that from especially people in, I guess, authority or, higher up tell you like, yo, I think it's time to do your own thing because
Yeah.
they want to keep you because you're so like, you know, valuable
yeah.
to them.
Yeah.
But they gave you that boost. I have like a theory that, and I mean, obviously, all the stars have to align, but I'm starting to notice from doing this podcast that it's like obviously you had to have, you know, parents that were there for you to like instill these values in you, but usually when they come from like, you know, the immigrant story,
Mhm.
and then they're self-made entrepreneurs, or they like figured out, yo, like why am I gonna work for someone else, like I
Yeah.
could do this myself, and then they kind of pass that on to you. But then you end up playing sports as a kid, and then you learn that discipline and hard work and determination you got to put in. So like you're able to take that and put it into like a business or your creativity. But then you have, like you said, both sides of the brain. Like you're creative, but then you understand, okay, there's a business side to this.
Mhm.
I can't just be all, you know, fugazi, la la land trying to create art. I have to also, you know, try to monetize this. And sometimes people lean more to the left side of the brain and more to the right side of the brain, but they're able to use both. And it's like, for some reason, when you have all these things,
Yeah.
it's like those people usually at least have the confidence to start something on their own. But like
sure.
that sports thing is something that I've seen like, through line.
Yeah, no, I think sports, and I think Mark even talks about this, and like he says like that, and I agree. Like sports is probably one of the like biggest contributors to entrepreneurship, and some athletes that go on to be in business are some of the best entrepreneurs because there's so much that align. You know, like again, the early mornings, the late nights, you know, traveling to tournaments, practicing, like that whole idea of like if you're not working, somebody else is, you can basically imitate that into business and apply the same rules. So for me, it was really simple. I'm like, I've already learned all these things and I put my body through so much in sports and actually doing this thing. Why don't I now exercise my mind part of it and actually apply some of these things to like everyday business tactics that I can now do to like build something for myself.
Yeah, and sports is like the physical, the grueling, it's taxing on your body. But I mean, business and the creative field is taxing on your mind. But like when you compare it, you're like, I mean, I put my shit, like my body through some shit. Like this
Yeah.
isn't. This is more like your mind working overtime. But when in comparison, you maybe be like, I mean, it's not as bad as when I was waking up at 4 a.m. doing 2 a days or
Yeah.
doing that or having to like fight someone in a sport or whatever.
Yeah.
So you talked about Mad Club. You're the founder, CEO. How many people you have under you right now as a team?
So right now it's my business partner and I, and then we have a team of 4 people. So 6 of us.
So like, how do you manage being, you know, you have to be somewhat of a lead. Well, you have to be a leader, not somewhat, but kind of you're young for the position you're in. I'm sure you maybe even have some employees that might be a little older. Like, how do you kind of manage a team like that? Because for me, that's something that I've always struggled with. Like, even having one person under me,
Yeah.
it's hard for me to like delegate. It's hard for me to like, I don't want to micromanage this. And so I can't imagine handling multiple personalities and even people that are older than you.
I'll be honest, I think I'm if not the youngest, the second youngest in my own business, which is kind of crazy to think about because it's like that whole like authority,
Yeah.
you know, idea of like, oh, you know, if we're always, you know, prone to suscepting to like the people older than us and like that authority figure. And it's like, one, I've never made it about the age. I think that's something that I learned early on that like, and it's funny now, I joke with friends and I'm like, I don't disclose my age until I'm asked because I can pass for a lot older than people think I am. And it's funny how like sometimes when people will ask my age and I say it, like their perspective or their mindset might change around me. So that's one of the reasons. And early on when I didn't look as old, that was one of my biggest insecurities because I'm like, I'm a young guy. I want to blend into this business world that for so long I thought was suit and tie, button up, like you got to look like a certain person. It wasn't until I kind of felt comfortable in my own skin to really be like, no, I'm going to wear a flannel and jeans and, you know, like Reeboks and like I'm a businessman. I'm going to my meetings like this. And it's like people will respect you for who you are and like what you've built. So I think in terms of like the leadership perspective, like I'm still figuring it out, if I'm being honest. I lean a lot, again, like on my mentors and people that I call close to home. But, you know, I've always kind of, my mantra has always been like leadership isn't built in a day. So it's just really like chipping away at the idea of like one being a people person. I feel like a lot of people in business and like sales and stuff, they might think of like, you know, the car salesman and like super like cutthroat and dry, and like I try to be, and we try to be as humane as possible when doing work with people, and like just within our internal team is like things happen. We work with humans at the end of the day, and like that's probably been the hardest part, is just like dealing with so many personalities, like you mentioned, dealing with emotions, dealing with just different life struggles that people go through within your business, and being able to support them in any way that you can has probably been like the biggest thing and like the biggest pillar that we try to lean on as an owner and as a founder. But it's not easy, you know. It's one thing, especially like when you're just leading yourself,
Yeah.
because you can kind of get away with a lot, but it's not until you're leading a team. And I'll be honest, like we have Monday morning meetings every week, and I'm like, bro, some days I'm like, I don't know if I want to get on. I got no energy, you know. But it's like you got to show up for those people. And at the end of the day, like that's really who you do it for. And you know, your perspective and your priorities and your purpose in your own business almost shift in a way where it's like there have been hard times in our business where I'm like, I'm not willing to let these people go. Like I will do whatever it takes to like make it through this adversity. And that's kind of like the rock that we lean on for sure.
Nah, and that pressure kind of just holds you accountable in a way. And you, like you said, sometimes you might not have the energy, but it's bigger than you at this point. Like people are relying on you.
Yeah.
But so what is it that Mac Club Media does exactly? And obviously I know working with you what you guys do, but I'm sure there's more that I'm not even.
Yeah. So when I first started the company, we were solely a video production company, basically doing all things from commercials, branded videos, content for social. Early on, we got the opportunity to work with some pretty cool brands and do some pretty, you know, dope projects. Now, as of recent, just seeing like the ebbs and flows of that business model, we've kind of rebranded and kind of reposition ourselves to be more of like a boutique creative agency, really leaning on 3 pillars, which is content, social, and strategy. Offering, again, social media content for brands, small businesses. We've worked with big corporate, and we've worked with small businesses and solopreneurs. So we really like to like say that we're versatile in terms of like who we can work with. But that's really what we do, is we provide creative and video production services to clients and small businesses with their marketing needs. And now again, we're rolling out some more services in terms of helping them with content strategy. We found that a lot of the projects that we were doing, even the commercials, like we were the ones writing them. We were the ones kind of thinking of the creative behind it, the content strategy behind it. And we were just really charging for the execution of it. So we're like, why can't we now just add execution and like content strategy to what we're doing? Because we're doing it already, you know? And like, that's something that I love to do. I love to look into a business and be able to like really like see what they're doing and like diagnose them with like what they need, just to be relevant in today's marketing landscape, especially with all these different algorithms and all these different things that we're dealing with, and just like trying to find like creative ways to make them different and make them unique. So that's kind of what we're all about.
I love that you brought that up, because I feel like that often gets overlooked, like by both sides, like your client and yourself as a business, where almost sometimes I feel like the client almost expects like, yeah, like I'm asking you to do this, so just deliver. And then you overlook the strategic part, the brain bandwidth that it takes to come up with this, to like sit down, to get other people involved, to like collaborate on ideas. And then even as a business, you're like, yeah, but I mean, how am I going to charge them for my, like me thinking about this? Like what they want is the actual deliverable that they're asking for. But I think especially now with like so much content out there, so much AI and all these things coming out, like I keep saying it, like the taste and the ideas and the creativity that one can bring to the table is going to be more valuable, at least I feel, in my opinion, than the actual service. Like there's always a market for the service, the deliverable, the video, the Instagram reel, the YouTube long format. But the way you present it and the way you approach a client, I think, is going to be more important. And I think people are starting to understand that it is a value in that. And that's something you could charge for. Like,
no, and I think in terms of execution, right? Like we get the whole misconception of like video production or like video or photo, whatever, is like you get paid to push buttons, right? Like that's like the insider like joke of all creatives in that field. And it's like, to some extent, there are people that are literally just there to do this, but then for the vast majority of us, we are overlooked because, like, again, like we bring not only the technical skills that come with handling this $20,000-$30,000 piece of equipment that not everyone knows how to deal with, but also how to light, how to, you know, put together a diagram for, you know, some sort of production, or be actually able to script something that makes sense and to the end consumer. Those types of things, people oftentimes decline, and even us as creatives, like you mentioned, like don't see it, and like we overlook it. And that's one of the things that I feel like is so hard for, like, just to be a creative in general, right? Like, again, like you mentioned, a lot of people don't have the other half of the brain, where it's like, I have so many creative friends that they're just stuck doing the creative thing, which is amazing. But it's like, all right, like, how can you make this into a business? How can you live off of this? Because at the end of the day, like, we can't ignore the elephant in the room. Like, you got to make money, you know? So I think that's something that one of the reasons why we kind of moved in this direction, especially with AI and everything coming out. Like, there will be a day where, like, you know, these AI platforms are doing the work, but they can't do the work of our brain. They can't bring the actual, like, realism and the actual, like, personalized ideas and strategy to a business that, like, you or I can do, right? So I feel like, and at the end of the day, people and clients, they still value that personal relationship. Right. If you just want to get things done, then yeah, hire a robot and they do everything for you. But a lot of people and most of the clients that we work with, they work with us because we have a relationship that goes beyond the work. So I think that's really the way you would be to, like, stick yourself out and, like, really separate yourself from all these different creators that are leveraging these AIs. And we leverage AI all the time. ChatGPT is my favorite, you know, like, we do all these different types of things to, like, make our lives easier, but our clients don't look any less of us because we use that. Right. If anything, they appreciate that we're, like, leaning into the technology, and they want us to keep using it to make their products better and our jobs easier. So.
And it's also, like, the perspective that you bring to your work. And I feel like that's also something that gets overlooked. Like we were just talking about, like, the background you come up from, like playing sports, you know, having an interest in business, going to FIU and studying communications, and, like, the way you grew up and your friends and this, that all shapes how you approach something.
Yeah.
So I think this is a perfect transition of, like, I feel like the importance, and I ask everyone this on the podcast, I'm trying to do better at this, but, like, building your own brand, because then, yeah, you have your company and the services you provide, but I feel like people get to know who you are when you're building, like, your personal brand, and it just trickles into everything you do. So now it's like, oh, I like the way this guy is speaking on this podcast. I like the ideas he's bringing up. I like the way he sees the world. Like, we're kind of, you know, we're in the Venn diagram. Like, okay, I am going to hire him to do my videos, or I am going to hire him to do graphic design or help with my podcast, because he like, we're relating already in some way, and I haven't even met him. Yeah. So I think, like, do you focus that either on yourself or the business of, like, building that brand name?
No, I think personal brand in today's age is critical. And I think I'll be the first to say that I need to do better on social as in terms of that.
I mean, your aesthetic's pretty clean. Your content's pretty.
I appreciate it. No, and in terms of, like, one, I think we have to set the perfectionism aside, because I've been guilty of that, especially as a creative. Like, we're guilty of, like, always, like, making things look perfect. And I've really adapted this mantra of, like, done is better than perfect, where, like, as long as the product gets out, if the project gets out, there's never an end goal, right? Like, you can always be tweaking it until it's really perfect, but there's no such thing as perfection. But in terms of personal brand, I think that's really the way we do business nowadays, right? Like, you know, I kind of like to model this after, like, you know, as a key person of influence in your business, right? You have all these different things. I have an agency, you have a podcast, like, you have a business, like, but you at the end of the day are the key person of influence. And the easiest way to put this is, and I took this from a guy called Daniel Priestley. He's an incredible entrepreneur. Can't take credit for it because he's the one who kind of taught me this. Basically, as a key person of influence, think of yourself as the Eiffel Tower, right? Where the Eiffel Tower, in essence, doesn't necessarily make money. Like, the building doesn't make money, right? But people fly to Paris all the time to stay in the hotels, go to the parks, go to the cafes, the restaurants all around the Eiffel Tower. Where think of yourself as the Eiffel Tower, and all those different things around you are your businesses, your podcasts, all these different things. And at the end of the day, like if you attract those people to come to you, at some point they will want to buy from you or work with you in some capacity. I think the metric now is if you spend 7 hours with somebody, you've built enough trust where they want to either engage with you, talk to you, have a conversation, or potentially buy with you. So imagine if you're putting enough content out on social where someone has in essence spent 7 hours with you over the course of 6 months, and now you come out with a course, or now you come out with a product, or maybe they just, now it's the right time for them to buy from you for whatever service you provide. At that point, they feel so much more comfortable because they know you, and they feel like they know you, although they never probably had a conversation with you, but they feel like you know you. I think you had said in one of the podcasts that you feel like you're homies with Joe Rogan because you listen to his podcast.
I'll cry every day. That's like a family member at this
exactly.
point.
So it's like, but technically you've never met him. I mean, I don't know if you
Right.
have, but you've never met him in person. You never had a conversation with him. He doesn't know your family. You don't know his, like, but you feel so connected to him because you've spent so much time. Imagine his podcasts are like 2-3 hours long. You listen to one a week, bro. You've spent hundreds of hours with the guy, you know? So like the level of trust that you've built with someone like Joe Rogan is second to none with someone that maybe probably provides the same service or business or whatever thing that he's selling, but doesn't have that brand attached to it, where like now you actually have that connection to. So I think at the end of the day, like that's what the personal brand is all about. People do business with people, not with businesses and
Right.
logos and, you know, all these different mantras and stuff. But that's what we're really trying to lean into, especially in like today's day and age. And like we're just, you know, taking advantage of the opportunities to create content. Also like just try being the content, right? Like not everybody has a D-Rock like Gary Vee to be like following him around like in cars and stuff. But if you can just as simply as like set up a camera, this is something that I've done recently where like I'll just set up a camera like right next to my computer and I will press record when I'm just about to jump on a Zoom sales call or some sort of discovery call, and basically just record that entire conversation. And not only is it good for me to like look up later on and like take notes from, but also like taking snippets and like smaller short videos from of something that I might have said that might have been of value to that one
Right.
person, but also could have been of value to anybody else listening, right? So I think it's just like if you can work smarter, not harder, and like you don't have to like allocate 6 hours of your week to like create content, just look at your schedule and think of the opportunities that you can actually just like set up a camera somewhere or like put up your phone and actually just like create content like that instead of actually like sitting in front of the camera talking into the camera,
Like documenting versus creating.
yeah. So I think that's something, and it goes back to like the Casey Neistat type of content, right? And it's right where we're back. Like people are going back to that type of content, super raw, authentic, not highly produced. Like that's the stuff that people want to see.
Nah, and it works because like you said, like you're it's not like you're producing the, all right, I'm gonna sit down and create content. Like like I've tried doing that before, and it's
Yeah.
like even watching it, I'm like, bro, it's cringe. Like talking to the camera. Some people are great at it, don't get
Yeah.
me wrong, and like you have a message, you could deliver it, boom. But when you're actually helping out a client or a team member or on a call, like you're being a human and you're trying to help them or you're trying to portray a message, whatever it is. So like it feels more authentic. And
Yeah.
and then if you're providing value for one person, I'm sure there is a way that if you were able to clip that and put it on social, someone will get value from it.
Yeah.
It's literally what I'm trying to do with this podcast. Like
Exactly.
produce clips of me trying to get value from you and vice versa. But someone other than Junior in this room will listen to it and you know, hopefully relate or get some value. But yeah, I think that's super important. Like how do you kind of balance that? Because then, you know, the trick is always I have the client work, I have, you know, businesses that I'm involved in, but then like I have to also worry about my brand or my business's brand and create content. Like how do you kind of execute that or strategize that, or is it like you said, like, all right, I'm just gonna work around my schedule and plug it in?
I think what I've done, and it's something that's like kind of been a work in progress, is literally making it part of your business or like making it a part of like your to-do list, right? Because again, like unless depending on the type of business you're running, like unless you're running ads or you're having some other type of marketing, like that is your marketing. That is like building your brand and building your business or whatever you're about. So if you were to put that into perspective, like would you not spend time creating an ad or creating something that you would actually put money behind to like run for your business? Like most likely, yes, most businesses would. So like why not spend the time and put it on your list to do of like, let me create content or document what I'm doing in the day, Or maybe it is you want to hire someone to like film you at an event that you're doing, that you're speaking. Maybe there's 500 people in that room, but by taking 10 clips from that hour presentation, now you can reach 500,000, right?
Yeah.
So it's like the Gary Vee effect. He even admitted, he's like, I don't take these speaking gigs
Right.
unless I can clip it and use it for something else, right? Because he's like, 500 people is not worth it, you know, to like really like get as broad of an audience. He's like, if I can make an impact on those 500 people and then also use this content to be able to like make a bigger splash, that's what I'm going to do. So I think at the end of the day, it's just like being intentional with it, and also shifting your mindset from like, oh, I want to go viral, to like, I want to build trust, right? Like put yourself in your customer's shoes and like seeing like, what do they want to know? What questions do they have? How can I build trust with them, and create content around that? Because a lot of people are just trying to create, you know, cool, you know, aesthetically pleasing videos that like will go viral because like everything looks good. It's like, but your end consumer, the person who actually might buy from you, doesn't really care about that. So just trying to find a way for you to build that trust and build the content around whatever that person might want to see.
I heard a good, I forgot who said it, but it was on Instagram, that the way his content started to shift and he started to see a lot more success was when he pictured his audience being like his daughter grown up, and like how would he, what lessons would he want her to get from him, or what like value would he want her to understand. So like he was addressing it to her, so he's not so like acting or like, you know, a character. So it helped them break through of like, I mean, this is something I would tell my own daughter, so how can I do that for an audience?
Yeah,
and it's like kind of tricking yourself.
People will see that, you know, like people see right through like the fake and like the popular trendy things that people say. Like I've had conversations with people, and it's crazy because like it'll sound counterintuitive, but I was at lunch with a few friends the other day, and like there was a person I was talking to, and I was like, look, like I'm not the person to like work with you. Like, don't hire us. And she's like, but like, don't you want my business? I'm like, you're like, I'm not the right partner for you. Like, you're not at the stage of your business that like should be working with us. And that conversation actually got me business later on from somebody else being like, I appreciated you not fishing for that person and like just trying to take their money and take advantage, because I feel like I'm in the position to like now work with you because I trust you and I want that sort of service. And again, it's just going back to like just treating people right, creating content like as if you're talking to your daughter. Like it's as simple as that, like trying to build trust, and as if your parents, your mother, your daughter, your wife, your husband, like would be on the other side of that screen. Would you be okay with them consuming that content and like trusting what you're saying?
I think the hack I've done, which now saying it, I realize is like, I always think of the group chats.
Yeah.
Like the homies, I'm like, all right, bro, if I put something out like this, like it's got to be like how I would really be. Like I'm not trying to get roasted in a group chat or clipped off. Or
yeah, because people will see right through it.
Yeah.
And at the end of the day, it's not sustainable. Like if you are going to create content for like longevity and like consistency down the road, you got to do it that's like natural to you and in a way that people will resonate with it.
Yeah, no, and that's why I'm like the most excited about these times. And I like I say, I don't know if it's confirmation bias but I feel like the direction it's already been there, but there is a market for being yourself now. Like you can literally make money off being yourself. Like Gary Vee always says, like if you are obsessed with Star Wars, you can make $70,000 a year talking about Star Wars or making content or focused on Star Wars.
Yeah.
Like that's a real thing now, and I think it's like leaning more and more where you're almost building these like niche communities of yourself, and like we're almost, I mean, I don't want to go this far to say, but like we're almost gearing away from, there's always going to be like the Rocks and Kevin Hart's and like Kim Kardashians, but like the creators and the people building communities are almost becoming like their own niche celebrity, where like nobody knows who I am or who you are, but you might have like 10, 20, 30, 40, 50, 100,000 followers. And if you walk down the street, because of what you put out, people are going to stop you like, yo, Gabe, let me get a picture. And everyone's going to be like, how the fuck does this guy know you? But like nobody else knows you, but like you have loyal followers, not like just a vast majority of people like, oh yeah, I know who that guy is, but like I don't care.
Yeah. I didn't want to go here, but to prove your point in terms of like this past election, I think there's something to be said regardless of what side you're on, you know, like left or right, whatever. The reason why we got the outcome we got was because people like Rogan, because people like Dave Ramsey are celebrities in their own right, where they have people that trust them, right? And that's, I think, probably one of the biggest reasons why we got the outcome that we got is because millions of people listened to those episodes, regardless of where they stood at the time. They trusted someone like Rogan enough to listen, multiple times a week for 3 hours a time, a day, and are willing to like put their vote or their perspective in the hands of them, or like really be influenced by what they're saying. And maybe he has 1 million followers, and somebody else like The Rock or Kevin Hart might have 50 million followers, but they might be famous on screens and on movies and stuff. But what they say in terms of like on social media, I don't mean to like put them down, but they haven't necessarily built like a real community around what they're doing. Whereas like Dave Ramsey, Rogan, all these guys, like they're real people, they're not playing a character. So what they say, they mean, and people value that. So again, I didn't mean to go there, but I feel like I
think it's 100%.
It proves
99% accurate. Maybe we don't know,
yeah.
But I think there's something of fame versus influence.
Yeah,
and I mean influence can be interchanged, but like you said, whether it was recommending a nomination or buy this t-shirt with my Joe Rogan face on it.
Yeah,
all his people are gonna be like, I fuck with that. Because
exactly.
he's built a community, and I mean that's as simple as it is. I remember Andrew Schultz saying like, also like you got to look at each candidate's branding, their merch game. Like Trump, it ain't the best, but like he's got like hats, fucking shoes, posters, like shirts, and then like the other side was like, you get a pin and a hat, like you're good. But it's like it's branding at the end of the day.
It's
like whatever field you're in, it's like building a community, building a brand. Like I think that's something I'm trying to focus on the new year, like building a community. And I do you guys I know we were talking about the brand, but like actually building a community where you're kind of giving value, whether it's through podcasts or in-person seminars or meetups or whatever. Like, is that something you guys think about? Or
oh yeah, 100%. I mean, that's something that's at the focus, at least on my mind all the time, is like, how can we build something that can like personalize the business, right? Like how can we lower the pedestal of where our brand is, so to speak, and like put it down here where like everyday people can interact with us, and like creative meetups, creative hangouts, stuff like that. Like we work with a lot of the friends that we have. Like we hire photographers and cinematographers and directors and stuff, like, and then we'll go grab a beer after. Like we're all homies in that sense. So like building that community, I think, is something that's super important for us. We haven't necessarily executed on actually like putting out an event or anything like that, just because like this, like we were just talking, like these last few quarters have been like crazy. But it's definitely something that we want to roll out in the next like 6 to 12 months, is like seeing like how can we again put this brand, this business that we've built, and personalize ourselves. And like, we are attached to this business, but we also want to be connected with you as like the creative and like be a part of that community.
And like through all these things you're trying to execute, like how do you have time to even improve your skills or like play around, experiment? Like, because it's almost, you're working in the business, you're working out of the business, you're overseeing employees, but like I feel like sometimes at least for myself, I'm like, damn, this person's like learning or putting that out. Like, I don't even know how to fuck with that. Or like, damn, I know how to use AI, but not like that. Or there's a trend here, a trend there. And I'm like, I don't even know what that is. Like, do you ever feel like, oh, not FOMO, but like, damn, I need to like make time to just play around like how we used to, like how we taught ourselves from YouTube University. Like I always try to get back to that at some point.
Yeah, no, I think like self-improvement and like technical skills and stuff like that, like I've gotten to the point where like one of our first hires was an editor. One, because I hated editing, and two, because it's one of the most biggest time consuming things, at least in our work like flow that happens. So like, for example, like in that point, it's like, don't get involved with things that don't necessarily like drive you. And like, that's something that, like in the beginning, I'm like, I got to know A through Z. I got to know how to do everything. And it's like my partner Fern, like he's super technically skilled, as well as having the sales stuff. But he, like, when stuff like that operationally come up, I'm like, dude, like you handle this, because like I don't even know where to start, right? So it's like, I think the important part there is like having people around you that can put out those fires or like be able to like help you in those situations, and really just like dive deep into like the stuff that I really want to dive deep into, which is again like the marketing, the sales, the branding stuff, You know, I have YouTube up like almost all day, or like after I turn off my computer and I'm like cooking dinner, I'm like, instead of putting on Netflix, let me put on YouTube and like listen to a podcast or something. When I'm driving out over here, like I was listening to a podcast. So it's just like those types of opportunities, especially as like a busy person in business, is you got to take advantage of the time that you do have. Instead of listening to country music on the way home, like let me put on, you know, Gary Vee or like another, you know, podcast that I enjoy, so that I can really like try to use this time that I can't really be doing anything else but driving and being in this moment. Let me try to improve myself in that sense.
You almost gotta like be careful sometimes. I find myself doing that, but that sometimes you do just need to like put on a country playlist and
Yeah.
chill. Cause
No, that's my wife, bro. Like it's crazy. Like she'll really just like, she's the balance. I always say, I joke with her, because like if it wasn't for her, me and my partner have this joke that's like, when our wives are out of town, we just work the entire weekend. So it's like when they're actually there, it's like they're the balance to us, you know, because like at the end of the day, like we're so passionate about our work. Like I believe in work-life balance and that whole thing, and that's a whole other conversation. But it's just like having someone like that can really like bring you back to earth and like celebrate your wins, be there in your lowest lows, and like really like try to balance you, is something that I'm super appreciative, and I wouldn't be able to be where I'm at without my wife. So it's just like I think that's like really like balance, and like having that time to like, all right, let's put the podcast away and like let's listen to something else. Let's put on, you know, like whatever show we want to watch and be able to see something else, and like really like just detach your mind from what it is that you're doing.
Shout out to the wives, man. It's true, bro, because like sometimes like we just going, and sometimes, you know, you don't gotta sit back and bask in glory of all your accomplishments, but sometimes you're moving so fast that like my wife would be like, oh, like I saw whatever, like that's really awesome, like I didn't know about, and I'm like, oh yeah, like shit,
Yeah, I didn't tell you, right?
like, or like, yeah, I did do that, like
Yeah.
I thought it was like not a big deal.
Yeah.
But like sometimes you gotta step back and be like, oh, okay, like I am doing a little bit here, you know.
Yeah.
It's not always like go. But what I was gonna say is like, because sometimes I'm the same way. I'm like, oh, I'm gonna wash dishes, I'm gonna clean, I'm gonna go for a drive, I'm gonna go to the gym. Let me listen to this, that, and the other. Like, see what this guy's doing. What is this guy talking about? But then, especially, I try not to do it at night, because then your brain starts turning,
Going back into work mode,
and then not even work mode. You're like, oh, I didn't think about that. Like, and then you like want to already go tackle that, and then instead of like it was supposed to be. It's like, you know, as an athlete, like active rest, like, you know, you're still doing something, but you're resting.
Yeah.
But what do you do after you're consuming that content? So like sometimes I would put something on just to chill, but like, you know, be productive about it. But then immediately I'm like, oh, forget all this work I got to do. Like I want to learn how to do this.
Yeah.
And then it's like a 4-hour window of just like, how do I use Blender? Like, so it's like, sometimes I gotta remind myself like, yo, it's all right if you just like listen to fucking Rogan with a comedian, or watch a football game or whatever. Like, I love watching Love Is Blind. Like that's so, you know,
something so stupid that like will take your mind off it. Yeah, no, it's like
exactly.
My wife and I are now like rewatching Outer Banks. I don't know if you've seen that show.
I know, I've heard of it, but I don't
completely different like island mystery, like something that like would be completely. It's like, again, something to just take your mind off whatever it is that you're doing. And it goes back to a balance, like, right? And like, if it wasn't for someone like my wife, I'd probably be there watching Rogan or watching Gary Vee or somebody on YouTube, like while I'm making dinner, while I'm making breakfast. Like my whole life would be consumed by this thing. And then that also leads to like, what is it called? Like analysis paralysis, where like you consume so much and you don't do anything, where it's like you need that break in order to actually like see the progress. And it's like going to the gym, right? Like I went to the gym the other day, and like one of the coaches there was just like, dude, like I was going on vacation. He's like, dude, like this 2-week break is actually going to do you some good, because you've been coming so consistently that like you haven't given your body a break to like really like rebuild the muscles that you've been building. And in my mind, I'm like, no, I got to come like every week, whatever. He's like, no, like chill, like take a week, take 2 weeks. Like that's good. Like it'll help you rebuild the muscles that you're working so hard on. And it applies the same way to our minds, right? It's like, if you don't really like stop and take a break, you don't really see the progress and appreciate what you're doing, but also like have a mental reset where like you can be like, all right, like I see things from a fresh perspective now. Like I might have seen it this way because I was consuming this one thing for so long, but now I see it from a different perspective, because like I've been able to experience other things.
No, 100%. Even like taking a walk is so underrated, or having a nice long hot shower, and usually the best ideas
Oh, in the shower,
because you're
100%.
just like chilling, it's
Yeah.
complete, like almost in a meditated state, like, and your brain's turned off, but like it's almost counterintuitive. Like you're
Mm-hmm.
like, oh, I'm just chilling, like I'm not even thinking. But then as soon as you're done, you're like, oh, let me write that down or
Mm-hmm.
whatever. But yeah, and I used to be like of the mindset, like especially coming up as a DJ, where I'm literally would almost work every single weekend. Like I
Mm-hmm.
didn't ever want to take a weekend off. So even when I started dabbling into the creative field, I I just applied the same. That's all I knew. So I was
Yeah.
like, yeah, I'm gonna. If I'm not DJing, like I'm gonna be home working. Like that's crazy. Why would I not be doing something?
Yeah.
But now I've come to appreciate like those weekends or even a midday Wednesday where I can go to the park with my daughter or whatever the case is. Like
Mm-hmm.
those are gonna pay back. It's just you gotta put yourself in the mindset of like, all right, man, like just chill.
Yeah.
Like the ship's not gonna fucking
Leave. Yeah.
Yeah.
And it's what's the saying that like creatives need time to be bored? Where it's like it's so true. Like we really need time to just lay around and like do nothing and go to the park and go on vacation or like do whatever it is that we can do to like get away, as hard as that might be. And again, I'll be the first to admit that that's one of the biggest struggles I have is like really trying to get away from the business because I'm so passionate about it and I'm so involved in it, that all I want to do is like find new ways to improve myself, to improve the business, or like to do whatever. So it's really not until like you have the opportunity to like take a step back and be like, oh, like I appreciate this for what it is, and like I'm better for it for taking this break. Right. So I think it's just a matter of like really understanding that and being intentional with it. Right. And again, putting people around you, like shout out to the wives, like we can't do it without them.
nah. And sometimes like you're like, why you being so soft, dude? But I shift my mindset of like it's not even practical as a business
Mm-hmm.
to like push yourself to overdrive and burn out, because then those days after, or it might be catastrophic in the long run, and then you really can't function or operate at a high level, and then you're really fucked, and then the ship really might sail, or you might lose a team, or you might like fall off your game. So it's like better to take just one step back to
Yeah.
take two or keep running, however they say. But yeah,
No, and burnout's a real thing. Like I've experienced it to a level where it's like you feel like you can't do anything. Like you feel like you want to give up, right? And it's like, what am I doing? where am I at? Like what is going on? And I'll tell you the story where like this happened to a good friend of mine where she was at the time running a business with also like two other like side hustles on the side, while also like planning a wedding. Like she like her life at the time was like organized chaos is like the best way I can put it. And I think within like 6 months she was diagnosed with like an autoimmune disease, like a stress induced autoimmune disease, where she told me, she's like, I felt paralyzed, I couldn't get out of bed, like I couldn't turn my legs to like get off bed. And at that point I had never experienced burnout to that level, but that for me was like really like a wake up call, because she was someone that was close to me at the time, and like we had worked together on different projects, and it was like that was someone that I'm like, dude, like I see what she's been doing, and I kind of saw it was like a little bit of a red flag because there were so many things going on, but that was a real example of like what can actually happen. And like we think, as especially since we're young, we're like, oh, like I'm I'm immune, like nothing can hurt me, like nothing's gonna stop me. But until you get to a certain point where like we got to take advantage of the fact that we're young, and yeah, we can burn the midnight oil on some days, but like we got to really take advantage and like rest, and like really just like take a check and see like what is our priority right now, and what can we do to like save ourselves and like just like keep ourselves sane.
nah, the body keeps score, as they say.
Yeah.
Like it knows what's happening, and you could block it out as much as you want, but when you're putting your body through, whether it's mental or physical, it's just like it accumulates.
Mhm.
But is there anything that you do to kind of avoid that burnout? I mean, we say it a million times, but you can't really avoid it. It's just putting
You can
systems
avoid
in
it.
place.
Yeah, you kind of gotta welcome it in a sense, but have certain things in your life. Like for me, it's fitness, like working out, getting outside, going for walks, like going to the gym. Like if I can get a sweat in, that resets my entire day and my entire like mental state, and it feels so good. And again, like that's kind of what I grew up on. Like if I wasn't outside playing basketball, playing sports, like something fell off growing up. So I'm like, how can I still use that same like methodology in a way to like my life today, And when you're playing basketball, you don't have a care in the world, you know, like when you're throwing around weights at the gym, like nothing else is on your mind besides picking up this heavy weight. So at the end of the day, for me, that's one of my biggest like resets. And then really like taking weekends off, like as much as I would like want to work through it, like really being intentional with like, all right, it's Saturday morning, let's go get breakfast or coffee, or like let's just like get out of the house, we're gonna stay in, let's put on a movie that we can like just chill and like not really have something work wise be very prone to coming into the conversation. But really like those two things, I mean, the working out thing is like priority for me. I try to do that a few times a week, and again, just being outside, especially now, like Miami's been, you know, blessing us with this beautiful weather these past few weeks. So like just trying to take advantage of that. And like being outside, and again, we take it for granted, but we have such a flexible schedule, at least for myself, where I'm like, I work from home. Like I can literally go to like the pool and like just work from there and like be outside getting sun, you know, like taking advantage of those things. And like someone told me, they're like, not like 9 to 5 employees, like when they have to go to Brickell or downtown or clock in somewhere in a building, they're in that building from 9 to 5 and they can't wait to get out. Why do we treat ourselves like that, locking ourselves in a building that we can't get out? Like, why don't we, like, especially since our mind needs it, like our body needs it, our business needs it for us to be healthy. We need to like kind of put ourselves in that environment to like really reset. So I'm like, you know, you're right. Like, I'm not going to keep myself locked up for like from 9 to 5. Like, let me take an afternoon break. Let me work out in the middle of the day. Like, let me break up my day as much as I can, so that whatever is happening in the business, like we'll still be here when I'm coming back, you know? So just kind of having that mentality and like not treating ourselves as like that kind of like 9 to 5 and being so rigid, and just being flexible at the end of the day with what you can.
Human brain is so interesting, bro. Like, it's true. Like we work so hard to have this freedom, and then when it's given to us, we're like, no, we can't have it.
Yeah.
Like that's like you feel guilty.
Yeah.
Like it's real. Like that whole like being bored and sitting still is a skill.
Yeah.
I feel like, especially in the creative industry, it's like you have to force yourself or do things like working out. For me, it's jujitsu or like whatever. It's like something that no matter what, I can't like physically start thinking or doing another action that's pertaining to work or business or anything. It's like I'm here and that's it. And then it's funny because you do those things, and then since you're so locked in and doing it, you're like, oh, that was cool, whatever. Yeah. But then you don't realize like, damn, I had a pretty good week. And I was like, what was it? Well, like, what did I do that like everything just lined up? And it was like, you know, you hit your metrics of feeding yourself, of you ate good, you worked out a couple times, you spent a lot of time with the family, you got some work done, you communicated with humans, you weren't just locked in, but also you also had that time to lock in and be by yourself and just go in. So it's like, I'm always trying to like recreate that week every single week. That's like my goal, but it's not always easy.
Bro, and like you said, like being bored is a skill, being creative is a skill. Like, you have no idea, bro, and it pisses me off so much. Like when people are like, nah, I'm not creative. Like I can't do this. And I'm like, being creative is a skill. You just need to like learn how to really practice it, you know, and tap into it. Because like everybody, that was my mentality. I'm like, no, I'm going to go into business and like, I'm going to like, you know, work my way up the corporate ladder or whatever. And like, cause I don't think I'm creative. Like my sister and my family was a creative one. And to an extent, like she still is very creative, and like we always like to tap into each other in that sense. But it's like, I had a skill that I didn't necessarily know I had, because I was of a certain, you know, either gender or nationality, that I'm like, no, I got to do it this way so that I can provide for my family and like be this way. But being creative is a skill. And like I had a conversation the other day with like an attorney, and she's like, nah, I'm not creative. I'm like, you have no idea. Like if you have a law firm, having a business is one of the most creative things you can do, you know? So the fact that you've gained it that far just shows me that you are creative, right? So like, people just have unique styles, and at the end of the day, like that's what separates everybody. Like my style might just be different from your style, but that doesn't mean or show that you're not creative enough, or like don't have that. It's just like, in my business, I have no other choice but to sharpen that skill every single day. Right. So I might have more to bring to the table at this point, but like, you have that skill, like don't ignore it, you know?
Nah, and it's the same on both sides. It's like, it's just being in business and an entrepreneur is more, I mean, it's not traditional, but like there's a more traditional path to it. So people think like, oh, I'm not creative. Like I'm just following this thing that other people have done. And it's the same. Like I used to think, bro, like I'm just gonna stay on this side. I don't have the business mind. I failed college algebra. Like numbers aren't my thing. Like why am I even like I would to like a detriment in some extent where I was just like, nah, I'm not even gonna try. But then it's the same thing. If I was able to learn all this, like it's almost the same. It's just a different playground.
Yeah.
Like okay, let me apply my creative brain into the business. Maybe I can see things differently than someone that's just into business and doesn't know the creative side. So it goes back to how we started. Like I feel like that's the perfect mix. And I always tell people that exactly what you said. Like, oh, I'm not creative. I'm like, yeah, bro, but like maybe to some extent you might have the stronger side of things where you have the business mind. Now you can, if you're able to open your left brain, you can kind of capitalize on that. And same with the other side, like, oh, I'm not a business person, but bro, you like have this creativity, maybe you can monetize it. So it's like everyone has a little bit of everything. It's just tapping into it.
Yeah, you have to tap into it. And at the end of the day, again, it's a skill that some people might have more of, like you mentioned. And it's just like, how can we sharpen what we're good at? And again, like build those people around us for us to actually be able to like delegate or actually be able to like tap into those people that might be better in business or might be better in operations. Like, bro, in college and in school growing up, like math was not my thing. Now, bro, spreadsheets. Dude, I can go off about spreadsheets, bro. Like
spreadsheets, bro.
You want to talk about spreadsheets? Like that's my thing. Like it's crazy, but like I live and die by my like our spreadsheets and like numbers and stuff.
There.
And like
I'm not there yet.
Bro, I'm telling you, like I mean, I will say like it takes all the calculating out of it for me. So like I guess that's considered math, but at the end of the day, like it's like what you perceive of yourself is also so powerful because if you tell yourself like, nah, I'm not good at this thing, you damn well won't be good at that thing.
It's a narrative.
You know? So like your brain, your tongue is so powerful to be able to like really like dictate who you are and what you are. So I always challenge people like don't say anything that you really don't mean. Like really like think about what you're gonna do and what you're gonna say and who you want to be, right? Like if you really want to be this one person that's like operations heavy, you have no, desire to be in the creative field, then you're gonna be sharpening this skill over here. But it doesn't mean that you don't have this one. You just need to tap into it. So I think at the end of the day, it's all priorities and like just really being able to like seeing like, okay, I want to focus my efforts in this and like put all my eggs in this basket, and then putting people around you to be able to actually like execute on that.
Nah, for sure. And when I was younger, my accounting system was like, okay, did this month the number get higher? Cool, we're good.
Bro, and it's crazy. In most cases, it still is. Like in most big businesses, like that's as simple as it gets. Like business isn't difficult in that sense. It's like, did we make more money than we lost? Yeah, okay, then we're good. We're profitable, right? Now, obviously, there's intricacies to like being able to measure that and be able to like actually have more like report. Like you can go in and on about stuff like that, but the basics of business is that like, did you make more than you lost? Like, can you count that? It's easy, like addition and subtraction. Like it's not a complicated formula. Unless you're a CPA or an accountant, and that's the reason why we hire those people out because we don't do that. But at the end of the day, like it's really that simple.
And there's levels to it. There comes a point where even if you're not on the business side, you have at least a business mind to be, okay, maybe we need to bring someone in because I suck at that.
Yeah.
But we're getting to a level where it's going to be important.
Yeah.
Like we can't just, eyeball it every month and
and
one of payroll like that.
One of the biggest, like, I guess, I don't want to say failures, but one of the biggest holdbacks or like things that hold people back and entrepreneurs is trust, right? I feel like I know people that they have a production company or they have a creative agency or just like an entrepreneur, but that they want to have their hand in every single part of the business and they want to be in control of every single little thing, that you can only grow so far, right? You can only get so big when you're the only one doing it. Where for me, I don't really care to get anywhere quick. I want to go far. I want to go strong. Like I don't need to be there alone. I'd much rather be at the mountaintop and be able to like pull people up there with me instead of being the only one. So I think for a lot of people, a lot of business people, a lot of entrepreneurs, like they just have trust issues. Like they just want to they want to shoot, they want to edit, they want to deliver, they want to do everything. They want a client experience, they want to do sales. Like they want to do the entire process on their own. And for some people that might work. If your desire is just to, live a comfortable life and do your thing and not have to deal with people. But I think for a lot of people out there, like their mishap is just like letting go of certain things. You know, like for me, it
sure.
was like editing. Like I know how to edit. I had some experience in it. I didn't like it. I didn't want to do it. I knew there's people out there better than me at it. So like, how can we hire this person that really loves to do this one thing and kill it, and I can trust them and delegate them to do this, so that I can buy back my time on this end where I can focus on the stuff that I love to do.
Nah, that's goes deeper into human psychology of like
Yeah.
why it's not even business. It's like why do people feel like they have to have their hand or control in every single aspect of life? Because
Mhm.
you know certain triggers, certain childhood things that come into play where
Yeah.
it could be trust issues, it could be whatever, but it's like learning to let go actually helps your business move forward. But it's something like you almost have to learn always on the job because everyone just wants, you know, you feel like it's your baby or it's your life. You want to be in control. It's hard, like
Mhm.
depending on other people for your success, but it's almost like you need to.
Yeah.
It's impossible.
It's impossible to grow anything without a team, and time too. Like you just need to let it grow. When you plant a seed, it doesn't grow the next day, Like when your wife gets pregnant, it doesn't. The baby's not here the next day. Like it takes
Nah,
9
bro.
months to get here, right?
9 long months.
Yeah. For you, I'm sure. I'd love to know from your perspective, right? Because I'm married, but I don't have any kids yet. So like, what is it like being creative in the creative scene, running businesses, like with that balance? Because I know kids will throw
Oh yeah.
a wrench into your entire
Yeah.
life and like really just dictate, what you do. So I'm curious to know what's that been like for you?
I mean, it's a learning process, bro. And I think that's why I like talking to people that are younger than me because I kind of sometimes forget, like I got to tap into like, does their brain work? Like, how are they doing things? But then sometimes I laugh to myself. I'm like, oh, it's cute. You have like all these little systems
Yeah.
and like you have your time scheduled and like, let's see what happens when there's a walking alarm every single morning that's, screaming your name. But it's difficult, but it also teaches you like what really are your priorities. And like
Mhm.
I'm sure you obviously knowing you and having this conversation, like you're pretty good with your time management. But I promise you that when you have a kid, you're gonna even be able to understand really time management and your priorities, like
Mhm.
what really is important. Because I'm sure there's some things which I mean I used to do back in the day where it's like someone would ask you like, oh, can you do this or can you meet me here? This and I'm like, I mean, I guess I could, like,
Mhm.
I don't really want to, or maybe it'll turn. But now it's like you dissect every single decision
Yeah.
and every single time that you're gonna do something because it's like you have someone else you have to like literally care for, and also you want to be there. It's not just like time management. But I also tell everyone it's like a life hack, bro, because of those reasons. Because now it's like you have no time to BS. And, at least for me back in the day, I used to be very, I wouldn't say I avoided conflict, but I just want to make everyone happy. I don't want anyone to not like me. I don't want
Yeah.
anyone to like feel a way about me. So I would, be a people pleaser and, make certain compromises or arrangements just accommodations for other people. But now it's like I don't even care what you think of me because I care what my daughter and my wife think.
Mhm.
So it's like it cuts all the bullshit out, and I think, in my opinion, now for being a father for 2 years officially, it only makes you better, bro. And it's
Yeah.
and like like me and Roby were saying the other day, like it's hard to explain it to someone that doesn't have a kid, but like, and don't get me wrong, it's not like just all peaches and cream, but it helps you in business because imagine you have that balance with your wife, and that's amazing. But then this adds like another layer
Yeah.
of like, okay, like now I have to provide for someone because they're not an adult. Like, I love my wife, but like if I was gone tomorrow, she's an adult. Like
Yeah.
she'll figure it out. She's more than capable. But an infant, like
Yeah.
what are they gonna do?
Yeah.
So like I think that's been I wouldn't say adjustment, just like, the mindset shift. But yeah, bro, I think, having kids, and some people look at it like, oh, but how am I gonna have time to do this? How am I gonna, just like you were saying earlier, you make the time
Yeah.
because it's a priority now.
No, that's awesome. I mean, yeah, I'm super excited for that season of our life whenever it comes. And yeah, I don't try to understand what it's like having kids because
Yeah.
I'm not there. Like I'm not gonna be like, yeah, I feel you. I don't.
Yeah,
You know,
right,
so-
right. But I do. I mean, but don't get me wrong, bro. This is the time now, which I did plenty of in my 20s and my younger years. Like build a business, go hard. Like I wish, that's why I love talking to you, because I wish I would have started earlier of like my entrepreneur journey or creativepreneur or whatever it is. Like, because bro, like those years are like, they're gonna catapult you into your 30s, where then now you're obviously still hustling, but now you have it with a family and you're able to adjust how that looks. But imagine doing that with a family. It's a lot harder. It's a lot riskier. So like, yeah, I mean, I'm all for the hustle, like on weekends, this and that, but you know, to a certain extent. But now's the time to do it. For sure.
No, and I have so much respect for people that like do the hustle and like the grind, like while they're getting married, while they're, you know, having kids. Like, I honestly speaking, I don't know if I would be able to like have the courage to like really like do it starting today. Like I'm, you know, age with kids, with family and mortgage. Like I started while I was still living in my parents' house. So like that to me was the biggest hack ever. And then even just now being married for a year, like really like, oh shoot, like I got some responsibilities now, you know, like it's a little bit different, right? So it's just like really showing you like what priorities are and like what responsibilities lie in front of you. And like, again, I know I'm super excited for the future. I'm seeing like what my partner's expecting. Like it's just seeing that, you know, through him, and like my sister just had a child. So it's like kind of taking advantage and like living vicariously through all these different people. But it's fun, man. And yeah, it's an exciting time to be alive.
Nah, and it's like anything else. It's like, yeah, it'd be a lot harder if you try to do that in your 40s with like a family already. But I mean, it's been done and people do it all the time. Like they like, yo, fuck it, I'm gonna go for it. But it's like working out. Like you gotta build up that repetition, that muscle, so that when you're in your 30s, like that starting another adventure or business is gonna be nothing to you, because it's like, I've done this before.
Yeah, you built the foundation.
Yeah.
At the end of the day.
So I'll leave you with this last question that I love to ask everyone. What does creativity mean to you?
Creativity to me means curiosity. I think that's one of the things that I've always leaned into. Like, if you can be curious, you can do whatever the hell you want. You know, like if you're curious enough to figure out like what's behind that wall, like you can jump the wall, break the wall, go around. Like you figure out how to build a door. Like you can do whatever you feel like you put your mind to. Which I think is one of the biggest hacks in business and in creativity in general. Is like creativity is really just, you know, figuring out a way to not limit yourself in what your brain can do and like what your body can do. And I feel like creativity goes beyond like drawing and art and production and film, video. Like it goes, you can be creative in your day to day at your 9 to 5. You can be creative in sports. Like it's crazy what you can do when you actually like remove the walls that you put yourself in. So I think that's to me like what creativity is. And again, just going back to it, like everybody has that skill, you know, it's just a matter of like, are you willing to put the time in to sharpen it, or put yourself in situations to like actually like get better at it? Because yeah, if you put a canvas in front of somebody, like they're not going to draw a Picasso drawing, you know, like that. That's not where creativity ends, you know, like it can go so much further than that. So that's what I'd probably say that creativity means to me.
Bro, that was a great answer.
Appreciate it.
Thank you for joining the Creative Curiosity Club.
Hey,
Rebrand. Just did a rebrand. If you want to plug anything, your socials, your company socials.
No, I appreciate you for having me on, bro. This was a fun conversation. I always love
it.
I love having these types of conversations. My personal social is Gabriel at Gabriel_Russo, Russo, and then our company is at Mad Club Media. Pretty much madclubmedia.com. You can find us online on Instagram. We got some videos on YouTube if you want to check it out, but that's pretty much where we're at. We're actually, I don't know when this is going to come out, but we recently just rebranded, so the look and feel is looking a little different, a little more colorful. So I'm excited for that. But yeah, that's pretty much it. Appreciate you, brother.
I love it, bro. Appreciate you. Thank you for coming through. Happy birthday, Junior.
Junior.
We're out of here.
Let's go.